This November 4th, when we go to our neighborhood polling place, we'll all be eager to vote for who we want to lead us in our pursuit for a better country. Surely we want to participate in helping elect our choice candidates. But the voters of Minneapolis will have another key item on the ballot this year. Though arguably not as vital or interesting as, say, voting for our president, I feel responsible to devote an entire episode of this show to a topic that will almost certainly directly affect every single one of us in the city. I refer to the $60 million Strong School, Strong City referendum. In short, the decision is whether or not to raise property taxes citywide 6% on all residential and commercial properties. Over 8 years, that will accumulate $480 million for the Minneapolis Public School District. At first, it seems debatable, but then briefly resolved. I mean, after all, if we need more money for our schools, we should provide it automatically, right? I mean, more money does equal better education, right? Well, not necessarily. But the school board, if they need more money and they request it, they ought to know what's best for the city, for the taxpayers, and for the children. Isn't that right? Well, then again, maybe and maybe not. But commonly, these issues are assumptive yeses. I mean, if they need the money, we need to get it to them. But it's not that simple. It's never that simple. $60 million a year is not that simple. $480 million over 8 years certainly is not that simple. And so on this episode of Minneapolis Expression, I just want to educate. I want to flesh out the topic beyond what someone's yard sign might tell you. We all agree schools need to be safe, adequately funded, enjoyable, well-structured places for kids to grow and learn. We want our children to be inspired to learn. We want our schools to foster dreams and nurture creativity and allow children to be themselves. But in recent years, Minneapolis schools have been downright terrible. Mired in waste and plagued by underachievement, our once proud school district has been on a steady decline. How poorly are the students doing? Well, this is the point which both sides of the referendum debate emphatically agree. In the 2006-2007 school year, overall math proficiency was at only 40%, and only 48% of the student body was reading at their grade level. More than half of the students in the Minneapolis district schools are behind. On this episode, you're going to hear from a candidate to the House of Representatives, a member of the Minnesota Sons of Liberty, who opposes the referendum. He feels as if it would be a bad move, and so is going to defend that point. Later on, I have a gentleman who advises legislation when passing bills for topics of education. And then I feel it is worthy to note that I did contact and have scheduled twice a member of the Minneapolis School Board who, after the second cancellation, instructed me to talk to the person in charge of the referendum. The referendum hires out people to pass the referendum. They have a paid staff to make sure the referendum gets passed. I'm honestly not sure how it does get funded, how those positions get funded, but I had to contact him, and he informed me that based on his decision, his direction, he was not allowing her to be on my show. I think it's unfortunate because she obviously would have done a way better job than me at presenting their side. I cannot speculate why they wouldn't want to come on the show and indicate to you why the referendum would be a good thing. But what I can say is that they did choose to not represent themselves. They did choose to withhold from informing you at home and myself about the benefits of the referendum, and so chose to keep them to themselves. Again, I'm not sure why, but what I can speculate is that they do feel that the referendum would be an important necessity to help make the schools perform to the level that they would like to see. And why shouldn't they? I mean, it's common sense to think that if there isn't enough money in the system, that more money would mean better education and better results, right? Well, on a certain level, certainly. If there aren't adequate resources, if there aren't the things necessary in place for a district to perform well and the students to do well, then you certainly have to have those things in place. But this is a matter of performance. And usually in a matter of performance, money isn't the answer. In fact, what it can do is bog down the process by having those in charge trying to spend their way out of a problem that isn't financial. In the mid-'80s and throughout the '90s, Kansas City took to implementing a money-is-no-object educational policy with the goal of improving performance amongst its students. While they succeeded in being the top major school district of the 280 in the United States in money spent per student and in teacher-to-pupil ratio, test scores didn't rise. In 1997, after $2 billion in tax dollars was doled out, the experiment was disbanded. The Coleman Report, widely considered the most important educational study of the 20th century, according to Johns Hopkins Magazine, concluded that factors such as per-pupil spending and class size do not have a significant impact on student achievement scores. According to the Minneapolis Public School website, there are 3,300 teachers and about 34,500 students. That already gives Minneapolis Public Schools an 11-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio. When dividing the total budget of $654 million by 35,000, we see that Minneapolis Public Schools spends $19,000 per student. But Kansas City isn't Minneapolis. Of course, their own situation was unique, their own problems particular to their area. And the way they misspent their money isn't necessarily indicative of the way we would spend ours or the way the school board would spend our tax dollars. So I went and met with Grant Cermak, who is running for the State House of Representatives in North Minneapolis. He's recently authored a paper that researched the recent budgeting and funding of our tax dollars by the Minneapolis School Board.
All right, well, we're standing here in front of Jordan Park School. This is one of the crowning achievements in the Minneapolis Public School District's recent plans. This school was built in 2000 for about $15 million. It's supposed to really revitalize this community in this area and bring stability to the area. So it was fresh started under No Child Left Behind twice over the last 6 years. 2006 we decided to close this school. We still owe $14.7 million on it, and it continues to be a drain on the balance sheet as we have to continue to service that $14.7 million in debt. And as you can see, there are no teachers here, there are no students. It's sitting idle, and we still have to pay for all the maintenance costs, and there's still security issues. We have to continue to watch it, and it's a real travesty.
This is how many schools?
Right, that's a count of the schools.
We've got from 140 to 90.
Yeah, but if you look at the maintenance costs, so here's our maintenance cost. Well, what happened to our maintenance costs? How is it that we've lost 50 schools, yet our maintenance costs are more? I mean, I understand inflation, but that's not inflation. The things are going in exactly the wrong direction.
This November 4th, $60 million will be asked from the Minneapolis property holders on an annual basis for the following 8 years. Now, the school says that they are low on funds. So why shouldn't we provide them with the funds that they need?
Well, I think it's very, very interesting when you actually start looking at the Minneapolis Public School Board's budgets and you start actually dissecting their numbers, because when they say they need more money, you really have to ask yourself, why do they need more money?
Yes.
When we started to look into the numbers, what we've seen is approximately a 5% decrease in enrollment each year, year after year, for the last 10 years, which means that if you count it all up from the last 10 years, we've seen almost a 30% decrease in enrollment. Yet at the same time, we've seen the budget actually continue to increase over those years. So this is a nice little chart graphic that we put together in the Minnesota Sons of Liberty Committee, where we did a research paper where we actually went through all the budgeted information and put this together, started looking at their numbers, and from what we can tell is the plans that they've had in the past, as far as concentrating on closing schools to reduce the amount of expenditures because of declining enrollment, have not worked. In 2006, they came out and said, if we close a bunch of schools on the north side, in 2008, we're going to be back on track. And here we are, 2008, and they're asking us for more money.